So they'll be calling you a radical, so I wanted to do a video about this. So the incredible D-Pharmacy, which was started by Mark Harrison, was cutting edge. His cutting edge CEO, the CEO previous to him. I think it's ironic because Mark Harrison has leukemia. He spoke at Light the Night via online. It'll be 10 years Light the Night this year. I was given 2 months to live. I have AML de novo OS with a marker of 44, which is unsurvivable. So our days of cheap drugs. I was just telling this kid, I says, I remember when I was a teenager, the dope dealer was right over there. You'd just go by, you had to have a federal tax stamp on marijuana in Utah. It was legal to sell marijuana in Ogden. And so now the drug dealer is the drive up a window at, which the old D. Smith, he's from Brigham City. My mom, my grandparents was his next door neighbor. Now Kroger. So the day of my cheap drugs are over. So they switched. They closed this D-Pharmacy. So we were just talking about, because you can't find medical alert bracelets and necklace every time you buy one online. They're so cheap. I've got to have one. So I made this. So these Mark valve replacement, we have to have them. Honest. We put them on our wall, but is the paramedics going to dig through your wallet? I don't know. So, and then I did my Vax card, and you can't laminate those cards. You have to put them in this because I traveled to Europe, and they require them. I just talked to a young woman they just got back from Paris. She says every single restaurant we went in, every single place we went, required it, and your test card. So we've gone in America. So I've just given him some history. The famous old diner and gas station was here on the corner of Consumption and Obey. Remember when they built that? I worked on those. I did the overheads, the plaster on those buildings in the 80s. This was all filled all the way to Bill Wattis' freaking house in South Weber. Biggest deer I ever saw in my life was standing right there in 1978. Giant, but biggest elk I ever said was standing right there. The only thing out here was the cool hippie mart where we'd go get our kegs as teenagers. And, there was no violence. We were free in those days. Said the drug dealer was right there. His house. He'd go up to his house. He was a philanthropist, by the way. Pillar of the community. He used to say all the time, when I was the dope dealer in this town, I was a pillar of the community. I was involved with the arts. I was involved with cultures. I gave back. This town was so sophisticated and wild and progressive in the 60s and 70s. Bluest district in America to the rest. So now it's self-righteous prescription drugs. I'm only on one prescription drug. Well, 2 for my replaced aortic valve. So I'm going to start making some type of bracelet or necklaces. If you're a jeweler out there, I think it'd be such a great thing because I have them, but the ones you buy online are so cheap, they're just a sticker on them comes off. Now I have this, that's my 1% survival bracelet. It'll be 10 years at Light the Night coming up. So, too bad, the D-Pharmacy was so bad. Glassman Pond, I got to tell you this story. So Vincent Hansen, who saved me, when I first went in there, they misdiagnosed me, sent me home, and Natalie Farr, my neighbor, scanned me that night. I was puking bowel movement out of my mouth. They thought it was my gallbladder when I had to call an ambulance almost 10 years ago. Just out of nowhere. Stomach ache, it got intense, it got radical. She scanned me that night, the radiologist. She ended up being one of my AML nurses at LDS. She's I love her. Grew up with her, younger than me. She passed away this year. Her heart, I'm sure it was strontium heart. That night, the doctor inside LDS told me there was nothing wrong with me. He thought it was food poisoning, but he says, you do have an elevated white count. Talk about malpractice. He never even looked at the scan because then I kept going back. The third time back, it was a woman doctor. I was watching the interview with Steve Jobs with Isaacson about his fight with cancer on the TV in there, and it was a woman doctor. I just run into her not very long, the first time in almost 10 years. She remembered. I said, you saved my life. You do know that. She started to cry. went in there and she put the work in. It'll be 10 years, and she says, she was gone a long time. She came in, she had tears in her eyes. She said, "I'm so sorry. Your lower bowel is just covered with tumors. You have tumors all over in you. They're bad. We're admitting you right now." They sent me upstairs on a Friday, and I know that almost all deadly cancers are diagnosed on Fridays because people don't want to go to emergency rooms on weekends. The on-call oncologist come in there, and I met him up there, just he and I says, "Don't lie to me." So I've been reviewing it, looking at it. It looks like it's in your liver. It looks like it's aggressive and moving fast. But what do you think? Don't lie to me. I can handle it. Maybe 2 months to live. Next, the doctor came in, told me a story about his wife with stage 5 breast cancer, passed. Told me 6 weeks. Then later they scoped me and misdiagnosed me and told me it was an ulcer, sent me home. The Japanese doctor told me there was nothing wrong with me. They found me on the floor, passed out, all but dead. I went to the Huntsman, luxury good of death. They're still suing me to this day for $1,600 for a phone call. They refused to see me. Said, "We need a check for $50,000. Vincent Hansen, my uncle's Thomas, well, my relative right there, who told me when I was young I was born messed up, had a battered valve. I was an athlete in this town, blanch plastering. Don't you ever let them open you, unless you can die one of the greatest cutting-edge heart surgeons in the history of mankind." Dr. DeFreeze on Balco, Barney Clark on chemo. He's passed. What a master he was. He was always mad at me, but he told you how it was. Don't let him open you, know you're going to die. So I go back in. The day before I saw Vincent Hansen, and Dr. Vacara told me they went in and biopsied it. They put it in the wrong dish. Vacara says, "Oh, look, it's benign." I'm like, "Thank you, God." He said, "Oh, no, wait a minute. I'm looking at the snip they took out of your stomach. They put me on the ulcer medicine." Total misdiagnosis. Charged me like $600 for the medicine that I didn't have. What a nightmare. So, and then he said, no, wait. I was the one on the stomach. Let's look at the one just flashing, glaring red. Bang, bang, bang. Your only hope, we're going to have to do surgery on Thursday. I'm going to cut you open from here to here and take out your bowel, blah, 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 blah. You know you're not doing that to me. Because I remember what Thomas told me. Never let them open you up unless you're going to die. Seeds cancer. Next day, I finally got in to see Vincent. Like that doctor from San Diego, my old home, crawled up on my freaking back. Got me naked and right on that, dug into my hip. I've been long, like the old days of San Diego when San Diego girls used to crawl up on me. My dad knew the death was soon enough for Vincent says, "Kevin, it's a nasty, brutal cancer. I'll call you." His secretary lives out by me, grew up by me. She called the next day. Says, "Vincent says go to the LDSC State Bone Marrow Transplant now." I said, "I'm not going to that dump." I started to break down because my dad died of this disease, acute elastic leukemia. So be there tomorrow morning. I'm like, tomorrow morning's 11/11/11. Out of Fukushima mouth into Kevin Blanch, the modern day Rachel Carson here. I broke down. I'm gonna die. I watched my dad die from it. I watched Annika die from it. I wrote my PhD that is still ongoing on it. My daughter's here. She says, at her house, called me back. So I called and left him. "Oh, Vincent, he's busy. He'll call you." He called me really choked up. No, Kevin. This cancer's back. There's a guy named Thimble Peterson in Denmark. He's like you, an anti-nuclear. You know, Kevin, my brother and my father both died of thyroid cancer down Winters of the Mutual when I was a boy. I believe in you. I've known you since you was a kid. You know, blanch plastering. You've known me since I was born. We don't send people in there with a marker of 44 at your age. You go beat the odds. I talked him into it. I told him who you are and how tough you are and how strong. You go in there and you fight. I went in there, and I remember that day, and I stood me up naked and beamed the lasers all over, and this guy says, you're very physical in the upper body. Trust me, you're going to need every bit of it. I put the lumbar shunt in my spine. I put the Fukushima fish hook, central line, my bullet wound in my vein. Went to work on me. My bowel was so constricted, they tried everything. It was horrible. I was in there a long, long time. Off and on for 4 years until Mike Lee kicked me off Medicaid. Do you still have all that money in the stock market, Kevin? Yeah. There's my quit treating me that so poorly. I have money. Fork it over. I'm not going to LDS. I'm going to Mayo Clinic. I got the money to cut down. You ain't got enough money for this treatment. I have almost $1 million. My Tesla stock. I bought in 2011. It's online. I think that'd be worth it. I'll take life. What a journey it's been. So the infamous Steve Pharmacy is over. See it light the night, October 9th. It'll be my 10th anniversary, the 13th. You know, the room right to me was the infamous pioneer, Marshall Jensen, who's the first one on earth to get the HIV injection to fight this infection. We had to make the decision on the bone marrow transplant center that transplant that. I didn't have a transplant. I was too sick. I went to the coast of California and I walked the coast, dying. I had platelet counts of 38s for 6 years. 6 years. So, yeah. I don't know. Dr. Connors, who did my open heart surgery, I could feel my aortic valve fell, and I fell. I'd been kicked off by Medicaid by then. I was broke. I was out of money. I had no safety net. I go to Ogden Regional Medical Center, and a guy named Michael Hawkins, a doctor there, I just bleeding profusely out of my face, treating me so poorly. Told me, no, I ran the test. There's nothing wrong with you. But didn't he clean me up? I have pictures. I have videos. Blood all over. One of the nurses, she had a cancer suck. She says, oh my God, it's Kevin Blanch. I was one of your nurses at LDS. She told the doctor off. He wouldn't listen to it. I later find out that he's a chiropractor from Western Montana State with a 2-year degree. Representing himself as a doctor. Can't see him here. I collapsed in my yard the next day on an Easter. I was born on an Easter Sunday. I got up here, get to the emergency room right here in McKay. The attending physician right there that was at the thing, he says, oh my God, Dr. Blanch. Dr. Blanch, he says, you were my professor at Hoover State. I was a student professor, adjunct. Wasn't even adjunct, I was a student professor. They used to make you teach to get your master's degrees in those days. You're the best professor I ever had. I said, you're a doctor? Yeah. Got me into Dr. Cloud and Dr. Connors. Get in a wheelchair. Your aortic valve's completely collapsed. I don't know how you're alive. I knew it. I told everybody it was my heart. They wouldn't listen. Dr. Blanch told me when I was a boy, Thomas, wait, if we replace this bad aortic valve of yours, years from now, they'll come up with better ways. Dr. Connors, who did it, them thousands of them, we do them the old way, we split you open. I went to medical school for a little bit when I was a kid. I saw one of those surgeries at the University of Utah when I was a kid. I said, they're never doing that to me. I hope I was nice to you when you were a kid, Dr. Connors, because I used to coach youth athletics. You better hope I'm going to hold your heart in my hand for 6 hours. Whoa. With tricky, tricky low platelet counts. I came off that table alive and kicking. So, Ogden, Utah in the 60s and 70s, what a place. The dope dealer used to be right there. Now it's a drive-up window at CVS. What a place. Stay tuned.